It's 5:31. Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. This is the meeting of the Town Manager Search Committee here Thursday, March 30th, 2023, at 5:31 p.m. in the George Parent Room. Roll call. Ms. Velez.
Present.
Ms. Colonnese.
Present.
Mr. Tenorio.
Present.
Councilor Rivas.
Present.
Councilor Adams is present, so we have a quorum. So, thank you, first of all, for putting in your proposal. We appreciate your time today. This is only we're talking 45 minutes, if that, as we go along. I did ask the committee members to keep any questions to a minimum, as that way we can move along, and then we'll, obviously, if your conversation with us, I truly believe it should be formal, so we get to know you, because that's how we work together. I truly believe, sir. So, thank you for your time tonight. And so, we've received your RFP, we also have your financial proposal, everything's there. I have obviously not opened up anything financial as we move along, but I'm going to just start off with the committee members, and I did ask them, write down some questions and see where we go and go from there.
Okay, great.
All right, sir. So who would like to start first? I'll leave it up to the councilor.
Oh, okay. So my questions revolve a little around the actual recruitment piece, and sort of if you can tell us a little bit about how you would recruit to get kind of a pool of diverse candidates. What are some of the strategies that you would be using?
Well, let me start from the beginning then. In terms of the recruitment, the most important thing for us to do is to define the opportunity. And, you know, using a farming metaphor, it's tilling the field. You can have great water, lots of sunshine, but unless you do the prep work for the field, you don't get good crops. So we spend a lot of time up front. Interviewing the leadership team of the professionals. We asked each of the counselors to give us some names of community leaders, and we interview them. And seeing that there's a search committee, we'd be interviewing each of you. We write a synopsis of the feedback that we get from each of you, and we use that as a teaching tool to present to the council, to get their feedback, and also to help instruct them what their various constituencies see for the job opportunity. And once we get that feedback, we write a synopsis of that. That informs us and allows us to develop a decent profile, an extensive profile. And but we use the synopsis as a recruiting tool too, because it provides the candidate with lots of great information. And you know, our theory is that it's easy to find someone with technical skills. It's much harder to find someone with a good fit. And every community has its own culture, its own way of doing business, and its own specific challenges. And those are defined by previous town managers and previous councils. And generally, you know, the community looks to either build upon what they had or react to what they had. And that's important. In terms of recruiting for a diverse background, we suggest that you advertise in the International City County Managers Association and MMA jobs sites. Also, the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. I participate in a weekly Zoom dialogue with that forum, and I'm making all sorts of connections connections in order to tap that resource. Finding a diverse pool of candidates is similar to finding a good candidate that's a good fit. It's step by step, person by person, referral by referral. In Massachusetts, there aren't a lot of managers of color. But, you know, I'm in contact with most of them. You know, if you're looking for a diverse pool, you're going to be looking for someone outside of New England. Because that's the way it is, and that's what happens. I had a 40-year career in Massachusetts as a manager. I know most of the managers in New England. I have a wide network of friends and colleagues nationally that I know that I can tap into look for resources, and that's the way I go about doing it.
So how long is the process of interviewing that leadership and putting together the synopsis and presenting it to the councils?
I am a machine, so I will do the staff in one day.
Okay.
I will do the community leaders, you know, what the next day, and you all the same day, and then I will send that out to the town council and to you, the synopsis. And then I will have a conversation with each council member independently. But, you know, the most difficult, I mean, all elected officials work kind of in isolation in their own world. And I find giving them a breath of feedback to be critical, to have them understand, you know, what's at stake and who they need to interview. In terms of my process, I'll have a profile, you know, ready to mail out to about 400 contacts within a couple of weeks. I need about 6 weeks to get all that done and get a pool of candidates. And the rest is really up to you guys. Generally, screening committees have their own personality and their own style, and they make their own determination of how they want to go about their business. I don't let you meet without me. I will provide you staff support along the way. Generally, once I get a pool of candidates, I will recommend 8 for you to interview. I'll give you a list of 66, 70 straw man questions that you can Southbridge. You know, they're generic, but then you can add a dimension to it that's specific to the community, so you can figure out how much the candidates have done in terms of homework and how much they know about Southbridge. But, you know, that end of the schedule is really up to you.
Community engagement, it is a challenge for a lot of communities as, for anything that they would like to accomplish. What would be your approach for community engagement? How are you planning to meet that?
I'm sorry.
Involve the community into the process.
So that's up to you. You know the community better than I do. It starts with having the town council identify community leaders and getting their feedback. I have supported screening committees who have done quick surveys that they're posted on their website. I've helped them hold forums for anybody who's interested to give them feedback. But generally, they don't want to hear from the hired help. I mean, I'll help you. But really, as a screening committee, it would be up to you to engage your, fellow citizens and getting their feedback. I'll compile the data. It really depends on you. Every community is completely different in terms of their participation profile.
What makes your job easier in terms of what we can provide in terms of information to get us the best candidate?
Well, by the end of the process, you'll probably be sick of seeing me and hearing from me. Having an open mind, I spend a lot of time with the candidates, and a lot of consulting firms say that they view the candidate as their client too. I do. I was a manager. I care deeply about the experience these people have. I know what they put at risk by putting their resume in a pool and being considered. And if they're not a good fit, I'll tell them right away. And I'll leave it up to them. But I will tell you, so much of recruitment now is defining the opportunity, defining the culture, defining the challenges, and ensuring that you have the right person that's capable of doing that. The qualifications and the experiences can vary, but if you don't have a person who has the right personality and right focus and the right attitude, servant leader, then they're not going to be successful in a place like Southbridge. This is a very active, vibrant, and sometimes conflict-oriented place. And someone has to have a thin skin and be adept at resolving conflict and not to be able to take it personally.
There's some sentiment about residency requirement. I'm sure that's new to you.
No.
What is your experience in terms of attracting candidates that have, with
Right now it's
residency requirement?
Right now it's a buyer's market. I mean, buyer.
Where are the buyers?
You're the buyers. It's a seller's market right now. The pool is very thin. So if you add a dimension like that, it's going to reduce your pool some. I always lived in the communities I managed in. I loved it. My favorite story is that I was in Stop and Shop getting food after work in Lexington, and I ran into an infamous citizen who had to talk to me, and he held court with me for about 45 minutes. My wife called me.
Where are you?
Where's the food? The kids are hungry. And I said, I'll be right there. He says, I know we have to go, but he kept on going. Another 15 minutes went by. The phone rang, and my wife said, I can't. The kids have to eat. And she hung up the phone. And the next thing, the courtesy desk had an announcement over the loudspeaker saying, Richard White, would you please take the groceries home?
Hysterical.
But I love stuff like that. So, if you're not, residency can be important. Commitment to the community is equally important.
Yeah, I think that's really the key. It isn't necessarily that the person has to live in Southbridge, but if they lived in one of the contiguous towns, so they were at least literally
visible.
minutes away. Pardon me?
Always visible.
Yeah, that would be the idea.
You know, I like going to the center of Lexington and picking up a cup of coffee and talking to people. You know, and as a manager, you just never see the full contingent in town. I can remember, I spent almost 20 years in Lexington. I thought I knew everybody. And then we had a level 3 pedophile move into a neighborhood, and we had a public hearing about it. And I went to the public hearing that was done by the Middlesex County DA, and I didn't know anybody in the auditorium, not a soul.
Wow.
So, you know, even me who lived in the town and was immersed in it and loved it, you know, there's certain segments of the population that you just never see.
I have a question. What can you talk about one of your successes and what you consider success?
We've had lots of successes. We offer you a guarantee. We figure that if after 18 months the candidate and you can't figure out whether it's a match, it's not our fault. But any time between months 1 and 18, if things don't work out, we'll do the search for free. We've never had to do that. We are painstakingly careful about background, getting to know the candidates, getting a sense of whether they're successful. All of the people we've recruited have had substantial tenures in the communities that they've had. It's funny, I'm doing 2 recruitments and wrapping up 2 right now. And one in Falmouth and one in Orleans. The 3 finalists in Falmouth are all male. One of them is an internal candidate. It's very difficult to get candidates from out of town to compete for a job when there's an internal candidate. Nobody wants to take the risk of exposing themselves to their employer and making their interests known public if there's a known candidate. It's just not done. So, you know, we had very few female candidates, although I contacted 39 personally and asked them to apply. The managers were well established and said, why would I want to risk that? The assistants basically said that they, when they made the transition from assistant to town manager, they wanted a place that was a little less volatile than Falmouth. I got 2 great minority candidates for them, but the screening committee didn't see them as viable candidates. You know, there's an issue around a lot of boards and committees don't like it when managers are involuntarily dismissed from their job. Every manager has a shelf life. It could be 18 years, it could be 5 years. It just depends upon relationships, changes of board, difficult issues. We judge based on what they did and whether they truly served the board that they were working for. Did they leave in an honorable, professional way? Did they serve the board well when they left? And we see them as viable candidates. One of the minority candidates I had was terminated from a job in California and the committee didn't want to take the risk on it. In Orleans, I just, we're announcing 4 finalists there, and they're all female. It's an up-and-coming job. You know, it's a great pay, and the community's stable politically. And, you know, so those are the type of environmental processes that affect recruitment.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I do have a question. When you say we, do you have more than one staff member working on the recruitment, the
Sure.
search? Yeah.
I have a partner, Thomas Grew, who's my boss in Winchester, who did a search here a while ago. Who started the firm in 1999. He does most of the, what I call office work. And I have an associate by the name of Charlie Sumner, who was a manager in Brewster for about 40 years, who does a lot of interim work, who is capable of helping out if needed. I would be the primary person on the job. You would get me. And, you know, most of the recruitments that are in that proposal, you'll see, have been done by me.
Go ahead, Sarah, please. Go ahead.
One comment that the exiting town manager had made that's kind of stuck with me was how much time he spent in the evenings, on weekends, and that we should consider that going forward. Is that kind of, is it realistic to expect town managers in this day and age to be out there all the time? Or is there a tendency, with all the changes that happened with COVID and stuff, to maybe wind that down a little, work a little smarter, and look for a quality of life balance?
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy about quality of life balance. You know, I had kids late. I was 42, and that's sort of like when I got hit off the head. I had to make room to play that role. My wife was happy about that, but you know, a smart manager is going to want to flood the town, the committees, with his or her attendance. He's going to want to build relationships, build trust, both formally and informally. And that requires a significant amount of their time on evenings and sometimes during weekends. As the manager matures, and you know, after a year or so, if they're good, they're able to pick their spots, and they don't need to be out every night. If they're smart, they build relationships with the committee chairs, and they're vulnerable enough to say, you know, I don't want to come to your meetings every week, but if you need me there, please call me. If there's an issue, I want to be there. That's hard for some people to say. Then there's balance, but generally the first year or two, you know,
It's intensive.
it's very intense, and everybody who takes a job knows that.
Okay.
I was involved in the previous town manager search, but it was all done by Zoom. So can I assume that the candidates, when you get down to the, what did you say, 8 or 9?
8.
Candidate, 8, that we interview them?
I believe in personal face-to-face interviews.
Okay. Regardless of where they come from?
Yes. Unless, You don't want to pay for California for a preliminary interview.
Well, if he's good.
Well, I'm from there,
She's
so I
good.
can head that way. You just let me know, I'll take care of it.
Take a trip.
I'll take a trip for you guys. I'll take one for the teams.
No, I understand, whatever's practical, but the mechanics are that we meet them personally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zoom is okay, but it sets an artificial screen.
Right.
And you really don't get to know if you can feel comfortable with someone over a screen. Right? The Middleborough, Orleans, Falmouth, Wellfleet, they're all personal. One interviews with the screening committee, and then with the select board. I just don't see any benefit of doing Zoom for interviews
Right.
like that.
Right. Except out of necessity.
I do have a question. I've seen in some town manager searches that I've watched for other towns that in terms of community involvement, that the community, the managers are actually, they're the finalists, but the community can ask questions through Zoom if they're unable to make it. What's been your approach with community involvement and so we can get their perspective of, the finalists as well?
Well, I have a bias. This employee answers directly to the town council. That's the most important relationship there is. It's the town council's employee. And feedback and impressions from the community are important, but they should be directed to the town council, not directed to the candidate. In my youth, I thought I might want to venture out of New England, and I had an interview I'm trying to think, Oak, it's in Chicago. In any case, the 3 finalists were up on a podium, and there were 500 citizens, and it was like the dating game. And it was the most uncomfortable situation I've ever been in, and I said to myself, just the culture of this place isn't a good fit. Because although I want to serve the community and I want to be a servant to them, I want a relationship with the town council. And I'm not a politician, I'm a professional. I think there are mechanisms you can use to engage the community and the community to give their feedback to the town council. I think the important relationship is with the candidates and the council. I like when you get down to the 3 finalists to create opportunities for the town council to sit down for 45 minutes to an hour with each of the candidates individually before the public interviews, so that they can get a feel for who they are, what they are. There's certain questions that you can't ask candidates, but if you get them in an informal setting and you're talking about lots of different things, they're more likely to share more things about themselves in a one-on-one interview. And to me, anytime you can bridge and make a connection that way, you get a better candidate, you get a better relationship, and you get a better outcome that way. And I know there are 9 counselors, and it would be a little difficult to do, but I still think it's worth it.
Yeah. How do you establish the salary range? Just by the market?
Well, the market is pretty intense right now. There aren't a lot. I do a survey, but in order to get someone good, you're going to have to pay someone competitively. And this isn't an easy place, and it isn't an easy job, and you're going to have to pay, the higher end of the range.
To the point.
To my point, yeah.
Pardon me?
He said to my point, because I hadn't made that point before.
But as part of this, I'll do a quick salary survey. There's lots of places to get the information.
Anything else? So I have a question.
Oh, good. I was wondering why you were
I've made the
so
chair, I'm gonna try to
holding
do
back.
Robert's rules until I get up to the, point. It's not really a question. First of all, I understand those, you got a minute that turn into an hour, and I know Charlie knows that, and everybody else knows that in here, any type of leadership position, that's what it happens to, and my wife doesn't go shopping with me anymore over a big wire or anything like that, so, and I'm sure a lot of counselors feel that way too, and those that are just part of the community and the fabric of it. This town is well-diversed. It's has its economic issues here and there. It's got a large transition happening through the economy itself, to job growth, to businesses coming to town, but some leaving town. We have an infrastructure roads pavement management plan that we set up a couple of years ago. We're starting to see those things. So our mindset is changing, but we also have the ones that grew up there all their lives, went to school, and it's difficult for changes that do happen. I know it's a blue-collar town. I know you just mentioned it, 9 counselors. Imagine they used to have 13. I don't know how anything got done. But you also have great staff in this town. And I truly believe no matter what, even our differences, that we sit up at the dais, we really do care about this town. We really do. And I think I'll be the first one to say, if anybody is worried about being called a counselor or not, it should find another job elsewhere. They should be worried about this town all the time. And it's a very proud town, by the way. It reminds me of a place that I grew up in, back west. So much. But we've had a few managers since I've been here that, I would say disappointed is an underscore. I know we may not be looking for somebody that's the first time they're a town manager, because it's tough, with all these things happening and all these counselors in the subcommittee meetings and the arguing back and forth. But at the same time, some of our meetings have been really, really great, and they work well. I guess, how do you find somebody like that? I mean, we've had town managers that start off like a rabbit. They hit that first year mark and they are done. It's just they can't do it anymore. I truly believe, and I'm very biased when it comes to work ethic, that you have to pace yourself, but you also have to be an honest broker to the town councilors when it comes to certain things. You can't appease them. You should work. You have to work that political side to make sure you're working what they want to see. How do you find somebody like that? How do you bring somebody like that to the table, and even guidance to the town as you're a town manager here? How do you, as a town council, how do you find that when we're looking at and interviewing those last 3 people out in public? How do we know this guy isn't a salesman or a girl is a salesman, or somebody that has too thin of skin that can't take it, and be an honest broker? How do you find that happy medium? I mean, that's a loaded question. I got it.
Yeah, but it's a good one. I'm just trying to dissect it and then turn it around. I'm thinking it's a tough business, and it's tougher in Southbridge than it is in a lot of places. And part of the reason why, and I'm being totally honest, and I apologize up front, is that you've had some difficult managers, is that you've had some difficult councils. And, how you treat the employees and how you interact with each other as a leadership team will help the success of the next person. So we'd be looking for someone who is capable of building trust in relationships with the council, who is unafraid to tell the truth and to be direct and to be honest, and is unafraid to be held accountable, but also hold the council accountable too. Many managers don't do that. Many managers see the relationship of accountability one way and get frustrated. What we'd be looking for is someone who has the inner strength and the character to be able to talk to the council in a way that's direct, polite, but instructive. Now, anecdotally, when I got the question, are you tough enough for this profession? I used to say, well, I have 2 brothers. They're 6 and 8 years older than I am. We shared a 120 square foot attic bedroom in a 2-family house in Arlington, and I was seen and not heard and constantly picked on. Yeah. So I'm ripe for public service. But, there's truth to stuff like that. So, my job is to try to get to know as much of the candidate as I can, and part of it is developing a relationship, building trust, using humor and teasing out information that you don't usually get from candidates. And also, talking to their peers. You can get a lot of information from a candidate's fellow managers, about them, if they're candid and you have, strong relationships with them. And, like I said, I spent my whole career in Massachusetts. I still know lots of managers. And if I don't know some, I know someone who does. So, I can get that. It's not a guarantee that, something will happen. But I can tell you that I anticipate when I do the synopsis for all 3 groups and present them to the town council that I'm going to have a discussion with them about, how they work with the staff, how they create competency, and, treating people with dignity and respect so that they can accomplish some things. And unfortunately, I was reading in the newspaper that, you had this issue around bullying or something with one council member and a license or something like that. I don't. That doesn't help with the recruitment. But most of the people I recruit know me, trust me, and if I tell them that it's addressed and there's a commitment to work with the next person, they'll believe it.
Thank you for the answer. Thank you.
I do have an issue. Have you worked with a community with our similar profile that's had these issues before?
Yes.
And what has been your success rate in those communities?
Town of Shirley, which is a rough and tumble place. Small community, has the towny newcomer divide and all the politics that come with that. Recruited a town manager, he's still there, doing very successful. They had a successfully, I think he's been there 4 years now. And they love him, and he's turned the town around. Before him, they went through, what seems like a manager a week, but more every couple of years.
Thank you.
I kind of want to just close everything up unless there's any last minute questions. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. I know you spoke a lot up here, and I really do appreciate it. I know we appreciate that. But just anything that you'd like to, any type of closing remarks. Usually we have opening remarks, but I decided to throw a psychological warfare.
Yeah, you did.
I know.
I had, the problem is that I used most of my opening remarks in my answers to you, but I'd like to think what distinguishes us from other is our accessibility. I'm always available by phone. I won't let you meet without me. I'll support you all the way. I'll give you everything I got, but it's your decision, it's your town, it's your search. If I think you're wrong, I'll tell you, but if you decide differently, I'll appreciate the opportunity to tell you you're wrong. Just, do what you say. But I think what distinguishes us most is the care and the intensity of our research into the community, its challenges, the fit that's required, and then finding candidates and doing the same thing with them that we do with the community. I think I don't know who's bidding on this, and I don't really care, but I know most of the competitors, and I know most of them put an ad in the newspaper, do some preliminary screening, and we'll hand you some candidates. We do much more than that. And if you look through our list of clients, you talk to them, they'll tell you. And that we've had a great success rate in having communities retain their manager.
Okay. Anything else? None. Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And everybody's good?
Okay.
We're all set? So, good evening, everybody. Again, I'm Councilor Dave Adams. I'm the chair of the Town Manager Search Committee here for the town of Southbridge. We have along Ms. Velez, also Ms. Calanese, Mr. Canoyer, Councilor Rivas. We also have our HR department, which I believe you have talked to, Ms. Adriana, and back here we have the interim town manager, Charlie Blanchard as well. So, being an open session, this is what you got from us. All right. Well, we're going to kind of like just start off. We kind of designated about 45 minutes to have conversation with you, ask a couple of questions. I did ask the committee members to keep it minimum as far as the questions were concerned, and we were kind of very informal at this point in time, where we just kind of want to see where this goes from here. And along with other firms, we kind of just started off with questions. And I wanted to start off with there, and then just let those questions come as they go. And if you want to have a conversation with us as well, please do so. So I'm going to start off with any of our committee members that would like to start off just with simple questions. We've already received your presentation. We've received everything there, so we really do appreciate it. Thank you. So, Mr. Canoyer.
Well, I would ask how your firm is differentiated from the multitude of others in terms of...
I'm not certain that Heidi can hear.
Oh, you gotta mute her.
I think you
She's
get-
muted, I think.
Okay.
No, she's not muted. Heidi, can you hear?
Yeah.
She can, yeah.
You're muted. Let me see. Let me look at the. Sorry.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
We can't hear Heidi, but we can hear you, Mike. I need my notes just in case. So you are unmuted. Heidi, you are unmuted. It's on your end.
Sometimes restarting it does help out as well, if you're having problems on the microphone.
Yeah, you might want to
Exit and come.
exit, yeah, and join the meeting again. Mike, can you speak? Okay, yeah, we can hear you well, so it's her, okay.
Yeah, it's on her.
It's on her end, yeah.
So I think she's coming back. I think she did take your advice.
No, She might be popping back in. I don't know if you, because you're not on the screen, but I don't know if you want to move closer to where David is.
Mike, if you wanted to introduce yourself and real quick.
Oh, there she is. Oh.
There she comes.
No, so you may want to go to your settings and on the bottom of your like toolbar and see if you have the right audio option selected.
Can she phone in? No.
Sure
Yeah,
can, absolutely.
There should be a phone in option, yes.
Just use your cell phone and then, yeah.
Correct,
perfect.
yes.
Yeah.
Like Ben, yeah, that's so frustrating.
I know.
Yes.
That happens with my teams sometimes, and I have, depending on who organizes the meeting, and I have to play with the settings. I have to switch from speakers.
Yes. Yeah, Teams is bad.
Bad, I don't like Teams. It's not my favorite.
So what was the question you asked him?
It's a general question. How would you say your firm is differentiated from all of the others who do the same work? Something that would stand out for us.
So I think that our firm stands out in a number of ways. One is we're a national firm that does work or recruitments in, I think it's now 41 or 43 different states in the United States. So we have a network of people throughout the United States that we can call upon. We've got several recruiters, I think numbers in the vicinity of just over 20 recruiters that we can call upon. We meet regularly on Thursdays to discuss issues or look for solutions. So this is a team approach. And a recruiter that you work with, and it would be me in this instance, I'm the face of the recruitment, but there's a staff behind me that's specialized in various aspects of the recruitment process, checking references, checking or verifying information on folks about their education, looking into their financial history and that sort of thing. A person that does the brochures for us that we send out. So we have professional people at every step. You're not just getting the recruiter, you're getting a whole team back in Illinois that does all of this work. Another way that we stand out is we are very committed. It's a woman-owned business, and we're very committed to diversity in a way that, some will talk about it. We really get involved in diversity and take some pride in being able to get diverse candidates. Now, the field is limited. There are roughly 26% of the population or the managers out there are diverse, but we spend a lot of time trying to attract diverse candidates, especially if it's a priority for us. For the client that we're serving, I can tell you that in Winooski, that was very important to them, and we were very successful. All their finalists came from a diverse background.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit, a little more in detail about some of the strategies? I read a little bit from your website on your diversity recruitment, and from the packet that we have. But just give us sort of like an overview of like within your steps, what are some strategies that you use that are different than others in getting those very diverse finalists?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You guys can can hear me now? Yay!
You did it.
Well, yes. Yay, we have liftoff. So, yeah, it's something, as Mike said, it's a core value of our company. When Joellen Catamatore and I founded it, and Joellen spent most of her career in Massachusetts, we really care deeply about seeing underrepresented minorities in the top jobs in local government. So to that end, I'm a founding member of a state organization here in Illinois that advances women. I'm also a founding member of the Illinois chapter of the Local Government Hispanic Network. We have supported the Local Government Hispanic Network and the National Forum for Black Public Administrators at their conferences. We attend, we're speakers, we don't charge them. We've also supported their events. So we support them with our finances and with our presence and our advice on how their membership can be better represented in the top positions in local government. And by attending their conferences and by being active on their boards, we see the up and comers. We know who's moving through the ranks, and we also make sure that we advertise on their websites, and we have a diverse outreach with our websites that we utilize for advertising purposes.
Okay.
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 You want to follow up? Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
So, and definitely, it's impressive, like, that you have a national network, but just thinking about, we just had a conversation about our possible residency requirement, and so what has been the success around candidates who are willing to relocate to, from like across the country to a small community like Southbridge? I want to be realistic about that.
Yeah, I think residency makes it very difficult in a recruitment because there's a few things that work. If you find somebody that's within driving distance of Southbridge and they very much may want to live there, but they may have a spouse that works in the other direction. The other thing we are finding is that people have kids in junior high and high school, and even some in elementary school. They don't want to, if they're happy, if their kids are happy, it's kind of like happy kids, happy life. So they don't want to, they don't want to move them. And we see this over and over again. So, I would recommend, you can say things like residency preferred or stress the presence that you expect in the community, but I think you'll limit your pool. There are people who will call us and say, I really want that job, but I can't move. I can't uproot my family at this point, but I'm within, 30 minutes of being there. So that's, I think to keep your options open, as attractive as residency might be, I would not require it.
Now, if you're attracting from outside that perimeter, say anything outside of an hour drive probably, then those people, that candidate's probably going to want to relocate. And if they're going to relocating in the community, if that's preferred, communicate that to the individual when they're in negotiations, and and maybe even help that happen. Give an incentive that if they move into the community, there'll be some remuneration or some incentive for the person to actually make that move. But again, I most of the communities. In fact, I had a community where an individual was right around 45 minutes outside. Actually lived in another state. They went back. They were so impressed with the candidate that they went back and changed the town meeting their residency requirement. And it required that they hired a person for a year because it took them that long. I mean, you have a council form of government to move a lot faster, but they had to wait till the next town meeting to be able to accomplish that. And more communities moving away from residency requirements. It's just that difficult.
All right. Go ahead, Adriana.
I do have a question regarding establishing a personal relationship with the committee and town. As you know, you're such a large national firm. How do you establish a personalized relationship with with a small town? Being that, for instance, today we're meeting on Zoom, how are you always available for, to provide services? What has been your success rate in building and giving that towns that personal relationship that they're really looking for?
I think we've been very successful at it. We really believe strongly in national presence, local focus. And it's for that reason that, you get the benefits of our national reach. The one thing that's interesting that we have found is you never know who might have started their career in Massachusetts, moved away, and wants to come home. And we can help identify those people. But then you have Mike Gillette, who's in your backyard, who knows Massachusetts, who knows the nuances of your community, who's able to be there. So you've really got the best of both worlds. And I think we do an excellent job of connecting with the communities that we're working in. We're currently working in Somerville for the police chief recruitment. The head recruiters in Tennessee, we have some local people in Massachusetts. They've done more than 20 stakeholder meetings. So they're very present, they're invested. So I think it's really a best of both worlds situation.
I'm an hour away, and just by way of background, because we haven't introduced ourselves, I'm lifelong resident of Massachusetts. I served 34 years as town administrator in two communities. One was Bellingham, and I spent 32 years, the last 32 years career in Westwood. So I'm very familiar, but I've been an active participant in local government, in all the managers association functions in Massachusetts, and I'm an hour away from you. I live in Foxborough and could drive out and attend meetings if that were required. I can also say that even when I've done I've done Winooski and Bangor, Maine, which were a good 5 hours away from me in both instances, I can tell you that in both instances I had a very close relationship with the search committee and or the city council, depending on who actually was doing the search. We became very close because I'm going to be interacting with you a lot to get through this process and keep you updated. I take a lot of pride in making sure you know and understand where things stand. I'll email you just periodically and let you know, we just received another 5 applicants, now we're up to 10, 15, 20, as we're progressing along in the process. And, in previous recruitments, there were meetings. We oftentimes did it, it was during COVID, so we always did it on Zoom. But, we established regular meeting times. If we didn't need the meeting, we'd call it off, but oftentimes we did, just to talk through where we are and get prepared for where we were going. So there will be a personal relationship at the end of this process. I will know all of you by name, and you will know me.
Thank you.
So one of the things we talk about is putting that initial document out for the prospective candidates. How do you gather that information from the stakeholders, from the community members, from the council, from the staff, business owners? How would you do that?
Well, we would work with you to determine, we have a laundry list of ways to do it, and different communities want to do it differently. We can do surveys, which were very popular during COVID for obvious reasons. We've done focus groups. I mentioned, the different stakeholder meetings that we have going on right now in Somerville. Sometimes it's open-ended. Anyone, we have stakeholder meetings where anyone from the public can come. Other times we combine those with stakeholder meetings that are specific to the community. So some communities have a strong art representation or a strong labor. Whatever it is, we make sure they get personally invited so that they feel welcome. And I found those to be very successful. Like, in this hour, there's going to be people from the downtown or from whatever it is that is natural to your stakeholder breakdown. And of course, one-on-one meetings with all of you and the senior leadership team. What have I forgotten, Mike?
No, I think and I think the important thing, when we would get started, we would have a meeting. And that's one of the things that we've discussed and come to a conclusion on. How do you want to approach the community? How do you want to approach the leadership of the community? How do you want to approach the stakeholders of the community? How do you want to approach the staff? Like to get the opinion of the staff as to what they're looking for in their next leader. So, it's important, and that's flexible. And there are all the options of surveys, of doing Zoom meetings, of doing personal meetings. They'd set up, for instance, I could set up a day and come down and just give me an office, and I sit down and talk to whoever you're looking to talk to.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Terry, please. I cut her off, I apologize. Terry did.
And I think I'm off camera, but that's okay. So, since your firm recruited our town manager for the town of Wayland, okay, you probably know that Southbridge is a tough town. How would you use your expertise to help get the best candidate who would work well within our diverse and tough community?
Well, I think local government is hard almost everywhere these days. So there's people are passionate and engaged, and sometimes that makes for you need nimble leadership, and you need people who are comfortable listening to a lot of different points of view and trying to thread that consensus together. I think those one-on-ones that Mike and I mentioned will be really important to understand what you're looking for, understand where the pain points have been in the past, what has or has not worked well in the past for you or for the town with respect to their leader, and look for those individuals who are, excited and up for coming to Southbridge and talking to them frankly. We believe it's very important to be upfront about whatever challenges there are. And, without talking with you, we can't identify those specifically, but we are, because we want someone to know, they have different opinions on this project, or there's this issue, and, there's been a loss of manufacturing jobs, and that's created, issues in the community. Whatever it is, we want to be upfront about it and talk with each of the candidates that we reach out to about their perspective on that and how would they approach that.
And I was a recruiter in Wayland, and I did not hear anything that it was a tough town. In fact, I heard good things about the time in Wayland, in Southbridge. So the other thing is that you have kind of a unique form of government in Southbridge compared to other communities in New England, and that's attractive to some folks. It's different. I mean, I watched your town council meeting today for a while to get a sense for how things function there, and it is a different environment than an open town meeting. And there are candidates out there looking for the opportunity to be able to be more efficient with the way they work. I mean, town meeting form of government has a lag between town meetings, whereas council form of government, it's different. I used to observe Franklin, which was near Bellingham, and their town council form of government, and I saw that it worked much more efficiently than I was able to do in Bellingham, and that's attractive. And I would stress that, and other aspects. I come to know the community, and will stress the aspect. But I think the important thing is honesty all the way around, because at the end of the day, we want the candidate to know fully well what they're committing to, and we want the client, the community that we're working with, to know fully well about the candidate as well. So everybody comes to the table, because what we want is longevity here. We want to create a situation where whoever you get is going to stay for a period of time.
Could I ask what was typical these days for the life expectancy of a town manager?
I would say 32 years, but that was me. I mean, I've oftentimes heard a couple of terms, 6 years is roughly the time period that people stay in their positions.
Yeah, it varies from year to year. Our professional association does, and they do surveys, and sometimes it's 4.5, but usually Mike's right, it's between 6 to 7. But it's, there's been a lot of churning lately because so many people have opted to retire. And we're really in a unique demographic time where the age group coming after the boomers is much smaller. So the Gen Xers, there aren't as many of them. And there are more, and I always tell them, you got your pick, if you're a Gen Xer. So a lot of communities kind of look at the older millennials. Are they ready to step up? Because a lot of times they are. And that can be a great opportunity. And we're seeing more and more. I think over time we're going to be in a good place because the millennials are as big as the boomer group. But we've got sort of this time period that's a little unusual. So there's just so much movement right now. COVID caused a lot of people to rethink what they want to do in life and how they want to do it. And we're seeing a lot of people leave earlier than they intended.
To that end, I've been reading some articles about, how the market may look like in the future, and they're saying that it will continue to be an employee's market for at least the next 5 years. What's your take on that?
I've been trying to read the same thing too, and it may vary from different parts of the country. I have a feeling it may not be 5 years because I do think the millennials are coming up and are really going after jobs and are terrific candidates. So I think what some organizations, we've had a couple say, yes, we want the people who would check every box that we've said, but we also want you to tell us who the rising stars are. And in a few of those instances, the rising stars have gotten the job because, they come in and they're excited and they're energetic and they want to prove themselves. So there can be that market as well. So it's I'm guessing it may be close to 5 years. I'm hoping it'll be a little less.
Thank you.
Anything else? So I'll just kind of close this out a little bit. I do have one question, and I don't mean to stand on my soapbox or anything like that, but the town of Southbridge, I came here about 12 years ago. I came out this way all the way from the west coast to the east coast, and I found this town to be so much like the city I grew up in Southern California, and very diverse. Economically, in a way, some ways it's struggling, but you also see the light at the end of the tunnel that it's growing as well. I see we have curbside issues. We have obviously trying to, like many towns and cities, trying to find employees to stick around here for a while, but at the same time we're competing against other people across the nation and in our own county, trying to keep a hold of them as well. But what I've noticed, being here through 2 town managers at this point in time, just got to see one side into the other side. And I will say, this town is tough. It's blue collar. It's in your face. It's you have residents here who are just right there. Not like any other town. I understand that all towns have that as well. But this is a very proud town. You have great staff workers. How do you find that town manager that is not worried so much about looking good on TV, while at the same time having thick skin to be able to take a little bit of criticism and not take it to an extreme, but at the same time I don't need a salesman or a saleswoman. I need somebody as a resident to me that's going to say, call what it is, but don't take offense to something that shouldn't be offensible to the individual. How do you find somebody like that? Because right now or somebody that's kind of in the middle, hopefully, and work with the town council, because there's 9 of us up there. There used to be 13. I can only imagine what it was like back then. So how do you do that? I mean, what do you look at? It's a loaded question, like I said.
Yeah, I think one of the things we do, people can tell you all kinds of things that they're going to do, or yes, I'm good at that, but it's really what they've done in the past and how, past performance is the best predictor. So you want to definitely understand, we look at the media, what kind of media have they been subjected to? How did they react, to criticism in the media or criticism at their board meeting? What do their references say about how they, their skill set, how they manage, how they lead, how they represent their community is one of the questions we ask. Are they a positive representative of their community? So we look at all those things and see if they square up with what they tell us that they're going to do and what they tell us that they're made of. We also look at their social media, and that's also a big part of it. We want to know, what are they saying on social media? Because, it hasn't happened often, but we've had candidates that have been negative on social media about their place of employment, which is, astonishing to me. But, we catch that. And it's, we want to know those things. So I think it's a lot of research into the person and also asking sort of more behavioral questions like, how do you handle it when? Or what's the time when you've been upset by something a council member said, and how did it make you feel? How did you react to it? You do your best to suss those things out because we do video interviews with the candidates so that we're able to really question them. So anything else, Mike, that you can?
No, I think I think when I'm doing the video interviews, as Heidi has just pointed out, I'm trying to assess whether or not they're a good candidate. So when I bring you the candidates that we found, I will be recommending those that I think that I found would measure up to what you're looking for. And I may dismiss some that on paper you're going to look at and say, we really think this person is qualified. And then I'll tell you why I decided that they probably weren't going to be a good fit for you. And then you decide. I mean, I've had instances where folks have decided, well, we respect what you said, but we'd like to see that candidate, and I brought them in. Oftentimes, it works out in fact, most of the time it works out just like I expected it to, but that's okay. They got to understand for themselves what I was saying about the candidate when I thought that they might not be a good fit. But that's what we're doing when we do the interviews on Zoom to assess whether or not we got a good fit. Because I'm going to come to know what your community's like and what you're looking for, and that's in my brain when I'm talking to them. That part of the process.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mike. The other thing I wanted to just mention is Mike is a longtime manager. I've been a city manager. All of our, senior recruiters have been city managers. So we've all been, chewed out publicly, yelled at by the best of them. sued, portrayed unfairly in the media, all of those things. And that allows us, we have that credibility to establish that rapport with the candidates. We've been there. We understand how it feels. How did they handle it? And so I think that helps a lot as well.
We also, at least in my instance, I've also had my problems with the board where at times it wasn't going as smoothly as I'd like or they would like. And, I spent 32 years there, so I must have done something right. But there were a couple of instances where it got tough, but you get through it. And then, I have a good sense of folks that I think can handle that sort of thing, and the ones that probably.
Like I said, that was a loaded question. I appreciate the honest answer. Thank you so much for that. I mean, really, it's tough. Pete?
I just thought of something. It's my understanding or our understanding that we might have at least one local candidate. I assume that you've had that experience before, and how do you handle that?
A local candidate?
Yeah.
I think the most important thing to do is treat everybody fairly, have the same bar for everybody, just absolutely across the board. Everybody gets treated the same. I'm very cordial with all the candidates. I'm very encouraging. I try to keep them in the process as long as possible. I've had instances where people have gotten offers and I've talked them into delaying until we could get a little further along in the process. If I thought they were a really good candidate and the town, the community I was working for might be impressed by them. So, I just do everything I can to keep the process moving along as positively as possible.
Thank you.
And same with internal candidates.
Right.
It's including the internal candidate. The internal candidate gets treated fairly, and then sometimes they don't get picked. And I will explain to the candidate. I had to do it many times as a town manager. I had many internal candidates that wanted to get promoted, and we always opened it up to a field. And I always went back to my employee and explained what it was that kept them from getting the job that they were looking for, and what I thought they could do to be in a better position the next time. Quite frankly, I do that because I was in that position myself as I grew in my career, and I always went to the people that were hiring and asked them, what is it that I didn't do, and what could I do to get in a better position if this position opens up again? And so I turn it around and I always go back. And with the candidates, I do the same. I've had a number of candidates call me up after the process and say, hey, can you talk to me a little bit about what went on? And I'm very careful. I mean, I don't divulge what people said. I give them my opinion of what I saw. I'm keeping the client from being directly involved in what the opinion I'm getting. Although I may have heard somebody say something, I'm not portraying it that way. I'm portraying this. Well, I think that it's just a way of keeping some distance there, just in case.
Well, I think that's why we're hiring a firm, just to make sure everybody gets the same shake at the whole thing. And then I think that's only wise of us or the individuals in here to do, and also the town council themselves. And God bless you for standing up for 32. You're still standing up for 32 years being a town manager. I don't know how that works, but good luck to you on that. But I do. I will ask one last question. The time frame. Looking at now, we obviously had to set a date on the RFP that we would like to have somebody in there getting ready to roll, because we only have a certain time with this great gentleman behind me, and I would like to keep him for longer. Maybe he'll unretire and we can move along, but I don't think I have a chance in that fight. But talk about your time frame really quick, if you don't mind, of how you're going to work with us a little bit to move this along. Obviously, we want the right candidate. We don't want to rush it just to throw a name out there, because that doesn't work very well. So can you tell me a little bit about your time frame?
Well, the time frame is anywhere from 3 to 4 months, right?
3 to 6
We're
months.
talking about.
Yeah, I think, the one thing we want to do is establish a schedule right off the bat with you and have verbal. So, and there's places, I think if we can move quickly, it depends on a few things. How many stakeholder meetings there are, because you have to give stakeholders some notice. You can't just tell them the meeting's tomorrow. That makes them upset usually. But we will try to get, we can get you draft position announcements, draft recruitment brochures, but we really need, a quick turnaround on your end. And then we feel that the job announcement needs to be out there for 4 weeks. So we have to give people time to do their research. We have to we're contacting them, and then they have to do their research, talk to their families, do all those kinds of things. And then we need, 2 to 3 weeks to interview, vet them, and do our due diligence. But we can have interview dates on your calendar and say, whatever date you're going to be doing the interviews on this date, we're going to get you the report, 10 days in advance. So we can be very specific about it, but you don't want to rush it too much, or you won't have a good school.
That's fine, understood.
But there's a time at which you do want to continue to rush it, or to get to the finish line. So once you start the advertisement and everybody starts applying, the people that are applying are in various stages of their job search. So you may get some folks that are early on, and they can last through the entire process, and then you may be getting some people at the very end of their job search with other communities. Once you're out there with the ad, I try to establish the date at which we're going to have a meeting to do the interview. And I try to establish the date at which the council's going to get together to do their interview, because it's extremely important to get those dates established and not have some wiggle room or some movement on those dates, because the movement only extends the time, and in that time frame you're going to lose candidates. So I think Patty's right that the initial part depends a lot on you and how fast or how much you want to do in the community. But once we then get out in that, then I think we're ticking along best we can, sticking to dates.
Very well, thank you. Any other questions? So we purposely didn't, I purposely didn't ask you for opening statements, because sometimes it gets boring asking the same things at the very beginning or something. My question, do you have any, based on our conversations here, anything that you would like to mention, closing remarks to us? Just throw that out there till you see if you'd like to answer that. Just closing remarks.
Well, from my perspective, I would very much enjoy working for you and doing the search. I don't take on a lot of projects, so I'm flexible. I have time on my hand between rounds of golf, for instance, as the summer approaches. But I'm retired, so I have a lot of time. And this is something I do because I enjoy it. It's not something I have to do. It's so young. It would be a pleasure to work with you and to assist you in finding the best candidate possible.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add that Mike, as I said earlier, we have a national presence but a local focus. And I mentioned my partner, Joellen, and she said when we first started, she said, we got to get Mike Gillette. She said he knows everybody in Massachusetts, and he's a wonderful person to work with. And so we were really excited when he agreed to work with us, because we do try to find regional people who are well respected, who know the industry in their state and their region. So we're so happy to have him, and he's done a number of recruitments for us, and he's worked in Brookline, obviously in Wayland, and in Bangor, and in Connecticut. So we feel very good about the work that he does for GovHR, and we hope to have the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you. Is there a specific phone number that I can call? We're going to have to finish up our meeting this evening, but I would like to be able to personally, regardless of how it goes, I would personally, professionalism, I think, to call you and let you know how it went.
Oh, sure. Yeah, why don't you call me, you're going to see a retirement thing for a colleague. So yeah, I'm here. So you can call me at 847-902-4110.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I know we have your presentation. I just wanted to make sure that I had the correct number. I don't want to be calling anybody later.
Just here in Chicago, freezing.
Congratulations. So you guys are 2 hours behind, correct? No, 1 hour. 1 hour.
1 hour, yeah.
Good one, yeah.
All right.
They're in Central. Yep.
Well, thank you for
Can
your,
I say hi, Darby?
he's right there. He's on the clock. We can't talk long.
Yeah, he was in Williamstown when we did the recruitment there.
That's
so.
right, yeah, very good job.
You've been great for us, absolutely great for us. I appreciate your time, we appreciate your time this evening for jumping on board and.
Thank you all.
Thank you. You have a
Thank you.
wonderful evening.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. Anybody need a break for 5 minutes and just go back in?
Bathroom break.
Yeah, it's a restroom.
Yeah.
Great. I have my limits.
We'll take a break for like 5 minutes and we'll just come right back. Okay, so we just finished up our second interview. That was GHR. And any further discussion on those two firms? None?
Yeah. I guess it's a matter of sort of like, I mean, they are very different. And I guess just thinking about the market and all of the comments about, you know, how there's so many different competing things that we're looking for. And I think that one firm I feel like might limit us, and the other one has, I guess, like the resources where all of those competing things can probably be managed a little bit better.
Right, but one of the things that differentiated it for me was how much time you actually get to spend with the candidate. You only get one video interview, and the day they come to interview with the town manager, the town council with the national firm. The other one, he's talking about meeting individually with council, basically having a whole day where that candidate would be available. You can find out a whole lot about an individual over the course of a day, interviewing with department heads or whomever, rather than sitting up at the town council meeting. That in itself, to me, is worth a lot.
Was that the candidate or they're interviewing?
Their candidate. No, if you had looked at the proposal, that you get the interview and then you get when they come in. That's it. That's the exposure you get. So that's one of the main reasons I would be for the Grow White. I think that there's more flexibility. They know us. They really do know us. Maybe if we're lucky, we get someone like the last person they got us and keep us happy for a while. But the rankings are close. I'm like a point off between the two of them. Because the other one I'm sure could do as good a job too, but there was a connection. That's all I can say.
I feel the same.
I would agree. I feel the same with that too. And I also liked in terms of diversity that he had connections to, diverse networks. It might not be on a national scale, but he still has that connection with DE&I managers, that are diversity. So I think he also, had a focus on that as well. So,
and then there's an old saying in industry too, is sometimes you need to develop bench strength. Like we have an assistant talent, manager / HR, diverse candidate right here. Okay, so those are the kinds of things when you hire people, when you hire your chief finance officer, you hire some of the other department heads, that you keep in the back of your mind. If with some training and if they show initiative, can we groom our own? In a good organization, if you're lucky and you have the ability to do that, you do that. And I think we need to start thinking smarter and start.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
Succession plan, absolutely.
Work on
I've been
succession plans.
saying that since I think I started here. It's so important, and that's a gap that we need to close.
Yes, absolutely.
Pete, go ahead.
Well, I think, even though Grew White is a smaller firm, it doesn't mean they don't have a national reach,
Right.
just by advertising, because that's what they all do. The bigger company, yes, they have more networks, so that increases the possibility that you get somebody that you want. But for me, I feel the personal connection, and again, based on the comments. But in fairness, I only made 2 phone calls to references for Grew White. I did not do it for them.
I did get to watch, I'm not going to be specific, but the recruitment efforts of GovHR and with their finalists, and I think they did an exceptional job, but it was through Zoom. So again, it wasn't somewhat right, and they had multiple. I mean, it was a process because I watched it, and I thought actually they did such a great job. But if you're looking, in my opinion, if you're looking for someone to be more hands-on and here on site, you may want to go with a local search firm.
Well, to Terry's point, I mean, I think New England is unique, and I think Southbridge is unique within New England, and I think you gotta be here to appreciate that.
The one thing that I liked about the national firm was that they're like, okay, once we have this meeting, we can set up this whole schedule, which I'm always amazed by people who can do that, because I always have to change something because real life interferes, but I'm always impressed with an organization that is confident enough in what they do, that's what they do. They have the schedule, you know when the final date's going to be, and it's like, wow. And you work backwards from that.
I do agree with Councilor Rivas's point of their outreach is larger. I really like that. Their footprint is larger, honestly. And I really did like that.
I was just concerned also in another aspect where when we asked about community input, I felt that there was more of a commitment sort of from GovHR to like, whatever you'd like us to do. And then the smaller firm was like, well, really is driven by the counselors.
Yeah.
I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think the community input is very important. Not that he wasn't willing to do it, but that comment just
I got the same. I did. I got that from that too, but I think that's something that whatever firm you select, you can have that conversation and you can say, because he said whatever the committee wants, and you can say, well, this is really important to us, and we want you to focus in this area as well.
Right.
And again, because our council is not an accurate representation of our community,
correct,
that is very concerning to me.
Yeah.
Can you say that again?
Our council is not an accurate representation of all of our community. So that statement just concerned me for that aspect.
All I have to say about these is obviously they're both highly qualified. You're not a national organization if you're not successful. And obviously, Grew White successful in this area, and I do think they have an outreach, but at the same time my concern is, like some towns have pulled individuals from out of state, far out of state, and they were very unsuccessful with those individuals. But you can say that about anything. You can hire somebody right here and they could be unsuccessful. It all depends on how it works, so you kind of just try to go with what you can. What I mean about tough town, I don't mean that it's always like yelling and screaming. What I'm saying is you have so many things going on within the town, you have to me, not be the appeaser all the time, even to hurt somebody's feelings, because you weren't following every little rule that today's society provides you. You have to follow the laws within this land, but at the same time, you have to, you know, I sat down with I won't even say I sat down, I had a conversation with an employee and the individual said, well, I just wanted to appease you guys. No, what I want you to do is tell me the truth and tell me what you feel is the correct way to say it. And I enjoyed that right here because he understood the town. He already knew it. He already knew what that was. And I think that's been a problem with some areas. And that was obviously shame on those individuals that want to appease us. I think they're the wrong department heads for any of these jobs. But that being said, I do believe that it is our responsibility, not only as a council, but as the committee, to do our own outreach. I am not too concerned about if he wants, we throw out Facebook pages with questions. I heard you ask some questions at your thing. I've talked to many residents and from all walks of life, so they do ask the questions. I just sat at RMG the other day and had a great conversation about Town Manager Search Committee and what we're trying to find and all that kind of stuff, and they're more than welcome to come to us, but I've also, on the other spectrum, have done the same thing for everybody. So I think that is something that we can grow with, and I think if it's social media, if it's a survey or something like that, you know, this is what they're for. I understand we're paying taxpayer money for somebody to represent us and get those hard candidates, but we know our community better than he will know that community, and especially a national community, firm. I'm not really sure you're always going to get that. So you may get a lot more candidates, don't get me wrong. And I think, as Mr. Blanchard had mentioned before, I mean, we need to make it very clear what we're looking for to them. And if that's one of the concerns, I think that's one of those concerns. You just have to be honest and say, this is what we're looking for, and this is a possibility, and then we go from there. And both said it's very limited. You limit yourself, and we know that. But we also know that we've heard that 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and everything like that. And we still get, I do think, qualified candidates. It just didn't work out for the town. That's all. Anyways, that's my say on that whole thing. So, to be honest with you, it never changed my mind of that. I mean, I really looked at the thing, and just based on the interview, I think they did a great job, and I appreciate that. Any other discussion? All right. No other discussion, then I'm going to just raise the hands on Drew White in favor of. Thank you. Sorry, I'm slow writing, so I got your name still. I'm going to go. I will never be an HR person. All right. To be able to do that. All right. Okay. Those for GHR. Okay. All right. So, actually, let me take that back. I'll entertain a motion to accept Drew White's RFP as the town of Southbridge's search firm for the town manager.
So move.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? 4, 1, 2. Should have asked that question in the first place, but that's okay. Actually, now that I had an idea where I was going now, that we did that. At this point in time, John, any questions?
No.
Or any recommendations?
No,
Okay, gotta go. Getting the expert real quick, Dr.
Just one quick comment. You're concerned about the national pilot. The fact that we have the International City Managers Association and the fact that all the ads are going to there, I mean, that's really where everything is. Whether it's GovHR or any of them, I mean, that's going to be the source because that is the big thing that gets there. So you will have the the national outreach through the ICMA and any other associations. I mean, as Mr. White mentioned, the different ethnic, groups for city managers and so forth. Those groups will all be contacted.
And also, if you're thinking about surveys, we can translate the surveys, just like I did for the trash recycling, right? And even if you have a live forum, I mean, we can translate the questions and, you know, give.
Oh, yeah, no, I thought that was.
Yeah, so I thought that was.
Automatically.
Yeah, I just, you know.
Okay. So,
That wasn't a question
all right, real quick, I have opened the financial document. Financial document is for $11,450.
Great.
For,
Crew White.
for what?
Would you guys like me to open the other one? Doesn't matter at this point.
Just out of curiosity.
I'm like, all right, guys, I'm out of here.
I
All right, let's see here, and can we? It's just to see where
Just
it's
out of
at.
curiosity, like to see.
I want everybody coming
So
back
this
to
is
you
Gov
involved.
HR? Or is
This
this
is
the?
Gov HR.
Okay.
Does that make it difficult? $24,500. May I get that right? Yeah,
Better
$24,500.
get the other one right. Double check that.
I'm not gonna say any comment or make a
Double
joke
check.
because I'm gonna,
Wait.
all right.
And then the third one, actually, I mean, you don't have to open it because
No, no,
you weren't
you
being
should.
considered, but you should, just
No,
to- so you can see a comparison and.
No.
No?
Leave it alone?
Yeah, leave it alone, yeah.
Done. Absolutely done. You think we should?
No,
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave this one alone because they did
How much
withdraw.
they
I don't want, you know, this is video tape, so. Okay. No, we got one more thing.
Oh,
All right.
I didn't say goodnight, I just
So
said,
I thought he's been out the door for the last 5 minutes. I'm just kidding. All right, let's see here. Agenda item number 4 is to vote on the draft minutes for March 16th. I did realize after I started typing them that I need to add each of the firms that put their proposal. All right. Night, Charlie. Thank you. But if there's any discussion on that, just need a motion and a second
So moved.
on the amended motion. All right, amendment on the,
is that just the meeting I wasn't at?
yes.
I didn't see that.
Committee members excused.
Oh, well, it says committee members in attendance.
Oh, you know what I didn't change? Well, it was probably
He's
mine.
excused.
You're that.
I was here in spirit.
I was here in spirit. All right.
We did have your empty chair with all the stuff on
We
it.
had a little candle up there. In memory of Pete. All right. Okay, so I'll make the amended motions here. I'll make those amendments and get them turned in. Is there any other discussion on those motions? I need a first and a second, please.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
all right. Pete. All right, all
Oh,
those
you
in
gotta
favor?
take a vote?
There you go, 5-0. All right, and
meeting.
the next meeting, I will let you know. How's that? I'll get out there. We'll make a phone call.
Is it most likely going to be a Thursday?
I will do my best. I'll try to work with it and give us enough time to be
Okay.
able to change. But you prefer Thursdays? Is that okay? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, other than notifying those two firms, who else do you,
Good.
that's it, okay.
We're done. After that, then we start the conversation.
No, but I mean, are you obliged to announce it at council, or?
I will, though.
Yeah.
I will. Absolutely will. Just to keep the public informed of what's going on. Make sure everything's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. You get those good eyes. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Good night, everybody.
That's right.